Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice Simple Steps for Showing Up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host. Let's do this. Man, I got a sore elbow. You ever have it where you fall down the stairs like you fell on ice? No? Well, I did that. Don't judge me. But I totally stepped on my stairs in the garage. 3 steps, stepped on it. My feet went out from underneath me. I landed on my back and my elbow. I'm really sore. So there's that. Welcome to life. We all do stupid things sometimes. Sometimes we fall. Most of the time we fall. It's a matter about how we get back up. Story of life, right? It's perfectly analogous. That's currently consuming my brain. However, I did something a little bit ago, a couple weeks ago, that I want to talk about. For those that have been following my journey for a while, you will know that I do what is called a Misogi every year. So a Misogi is something that should be so difficult it defines the year. And I do that at the end of the year. It's defining. And then it leads me into the new year. So Misogis originally done were the Shinto warriors. And they would do something, it's actually literally translated as a water cleansing. But in modern terms, Western culture, you just do something that is insanely hard for you and for everybody else. So hard it actually defines your year. And I do this to define the year coming. So I was first taught this by a mentor of mine several years ago. This is my 3rd year doing this Misogi, and I've kind of upped the ante every single time. Year 1, I flew to Chino Hills, California, and did it there. Year 2, I did it on a very flat surface, 4.1 mile loop by myself in 26 degrees, 15 hours, covered 32 miles the first year, 33 miles the second year. This year, I did it here in my house in Salt Lake County, Utah. I live on a mountain, so it was a 2.25 mile loop that we ended up doing doubles, so 4.5 miles each time we stopped. And we did that for 35 miles. So altitude gain, greater pace, greater distance. But this time I did it with some people. Last year, everybody bailed on me. This time I was a little bit more proactive. I started announcing it on social media. You may have seen this if you follow my social media. And I want to go over the different things that I learned. So for me, the last 3 years, I've walked from sundown to sunrise. So 5:09 p.m. to 7:51 a.m. we were walking. And that causes quite a surreal, visceral, and spiritual experience. I highly advise you to do it sometime, or not advise you, depends on how you want to look at it. It is a rather difficult and trialing thing. On purpose, I do it through the night. I was actually asked just the other day, why do you do it through the night? Because it sucks worse. That's why. Giving up your sleep makes the level of suck just that much more. I prepared everything. I took an hour-ish nap before we started. I got tons of snacks from Costco. Just a lot of calories. Quite a bit of protein, a lot of quick sugars, and then some Zip Fizz for calories and caffeine and electrolytes. And then we went on our way. And the things that I learned were actually pretty cool. This time around, I had people with me. There was 2 other people that started with me. Only one person actually finished the full 15 hours. The other person decided to do something a little bit different. They tried their own way. They decided to carry a 30-pound rucksack, thinking that that was going to be not heavy and be just fine. That sack came off at 9 miles, which ultimately made it so he did not succeed and failed, or I didn't say failed, bailed out at 25 miles. But here's the thing. Lesson number 1. I have been down this road before. Now I've upped the ante and I made it harder than previous years, but I still have experience. I gave advisement and the advisement was not adhered. Because of that, that person did not succeed in the full 35 miles in 15 hours. Advice from other people that have done what you're trying to do is quite critical in your success. You are most likely making it harder on yourself by not heeding their advice. Maybe that advice came from previous mistakes. Maybe it came from previous experience. Maybe it's worth listening to. I am a big fan of learning from other people's errors, mistakes, and learnings. I would much rather learn from theirs and they tell me about it versus me experience it on my own. That's just me. Maybe you're different, but I choose the path of mentors, guides, and teachers. Time is money. Money speeds up time. Money moves faster than time. Therefore, we expedite that thing. 2, my heart and your heart are not the same thing. I made this journey, this loop, this route because I've done it 2 previous years. I knew the difficulty in which I was measuring it. And I ended up telling this person, it's okay, you can stop because this is my difficulty. The purpose of a Misogi is to do something that is so hard it defines your year. Well, it clearly defined his year and was so hard that it defined his year. He actually slaved and slumbered and stooped and wanted to die for about the last 10 miles. He ended up making it 25 of the 35 miles, which was really cool. And I watched him several times as he just had the mental battle and fought with everything he had for about 10 miles, which I was thoroughly impressed. I wouldn't call it a failure at all. My heart and his heart are different. And he said, I'm disappointed because I gave it my best and I didn't complete the night. And here is a massive learning. Sometimes your best is not enough, plain and simple. Your best is not enough. So now you can go back, you can train, and you can do it again with more knowledge, more skill, and have healed up those things that were your weaknesses. Your best is not always going to be enough, and that's okay. When you're doing things you've never done, when you're stretching yourself beyond your means and capacity that you've ever accomplished to that point, you will fail. And that's the point, is to learn. I'm interchangeably using the words learn and fail, by the way. As long as you learn from these situations, they're not actual failures. You may have failed that specific instance, but you didn't fail the whole thing. You can come back. And then some other learnings that I had, some other awakenings that I had, doing it with another person, a community, an accountability partner, made it so much easier. That 15 hours went by so much quicker than when I did it by myself and audiobooks, podcasts, and music, or isolation and silence. I did quite a bit of silence last year. But the time went by so much quicker. I would look at my clock and all of a sudden it was 2 hours later. And we were just immersed in glorious conversation, learning so much about each other, because how often do you spend a dedicated 15 hours with zero interruptions? No calls, no texts, no emails. 15 unbroken hours of conversation. You can learn a lot about somebody in that amount of time. And I learned the power of community and conversation, genuine conversation, being with somebody, an accountability partner. It makes things go so much smoother. And then lastly, the power of preparation. I advised these 2 people to bring extra socks, extra underwear. I brought talcum powder so you didn't chafe. I brought duct tape and Band-Aids for when, not if, but when blisters started. I changed out my socks halfway through the night. I started putting on duct tape within about 5 hours or 6 hours of walking because I felt some hot spots. So I started duct taping my feet where the hot spots were to prevent extreme blistering. This other person that did not choose to listen only brought a sweater. It was in the 30s. Did not bring a hoodie, did not bring gloves, none of the sort. Did not bring extra shoes, did not bring extra anything. Brought a bag of beef jerky and thought that was enough. Though I had advised, plenty of food, eat all the calories you need, and change your socks. I was later informed when he took his boots off that his socks were filled with blood because of the blisters that had formed. Preparation is key. Listening to those that have been down the path is key. Genuine conversation, companionship, and accountability is key. Now, you don't need all these things to actually win, but they do increase your odds of winning. You don't need all this stuff. At the end of the day, one foot in front of the other will accomplish the task. And this is the very last thing I wanted to end with. If you simply keep walking, you will make it to sunrise. That's it. Keep walking. If you keep walking, you will win by default. If you have issues, if you have challenges in life, you will either A, become smart enough to get around it, B, the challenge will just end, or C, you'll become strong enough to force through it. But in the end, if you keep walking, you will make it to sunrise. And how cool of a thought that is. It is that simple on just keep walking. I'm currently going through my journals from 2018 and 2019. Those were handwritten journals. And the rest of my journals are all in digital format. I do voice to text. And so I have a PDF version or a CSV file version, both of them, of my journals from, when is that? November 2019 until the present day. And I'll be using these journals for my book that's coming out. So there's a little announcement. I will be writing a book and documenting my journey over the last 6 or 7 years. And I'm super excited for that opportunity. But I had to figure out how to take these handwritten journals and then bring them into digital formatting. So I am reading them voice to text and converting them to the digital format. And so often I see this preparation back then preparing me for today. And the steps that I took and the things that I say. It is so cool to see where I was then versus where I am now. And all it really was is one foot instead of the other. I keep on saying so often in my old journals, I don't know how I'm going to get to where I'm going to, but this next step feels like the right next step. I don't know how I'm getting where I'm going, but I know I'll figure it out. And the first step I'm taking is this. And that step ultimately was the thing that got me here, which is so cool to think about. It was a fairly outlandish thing. It was fairly, wow. I mean, if you've listened to any of my episodes in the past, you know I left my career after 13 years. That was the thing. I'm reading in the journal right now when I made that decision and how cool of a decision that was that led me to this point. But ultimately, it was simply just taking one foot in front of the other, one single step at a time. I knew where I was going and I had no idea how to get there. So I just simply started walking. And as I have said it, and I will say it again, if you keep walking, you will make it to sunrise. Listen to those people that have been there before you. Seek them out. Find mentors that have done what you're trying to do and heed their advice closely. It will increase your odds of success. So that's what I learned from this year, 2024's Misogi. What will I do this next year? I have some things up my sleeve. I do have an idea of what I plan to do. And will it suck even worse? Abso-freaking-lutely. And I'm so excited for it. Isn't that sick in the head? I really am excited for it. And it's going to be brutal. And I'm so stoked. But until then, do difficult things. Do your own version of a Misogi, whatever that is. Whatever is hard for you, I challenge you to do it. If it seems outlandish, if it seems impossible, if it seems like, wow, that might break me, well, then that's probably the thing you should do. Like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings, leave me a review, share this message with your friends. It is the only way the show grows. Mr. Brad Draper is my handle on all socials. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.